Good morning, boys and girls. Afternoon, evening, tough to know. But hopefully it's the morning for you. We are doing math investigation number 11 today. And I have a whole slew of manipulatives here that are going to help us learn about this concept. The concept is volume, okay? Volume. What is volume, okay? In your book, hopefully you can check this out. Volume, what it says in the book, is the amount of space a shape occupies is called the volume, okay? So if we took water and we filled up a bottle, okay, the amount of space inside that is the volume, okay? And we measure that, okay, by the volume of water that's in there. Okay, we can have volume for all sorts of different shapes. What's taking up the amount of space inside of it, okay? And we measure volume with cubic units, such as cubic centimeters, cubic inches, cubic feet, cubic meters, cubic miles, you name it. Some length we can measure in cubic form that way, okay? So in the word cubic, you hear, that's right, you hear cube, okay? So we have cubes, okay? So I'm going to turn on some different lights here just for a moment, okay? So it'll make a little glare on the board, but make it easier for us to see my manipulatives. I'm going to hit one more light switch here, okay? And so we have these manipulatives, okay? So if we look at this, okay, and we think, well, how would I know the volume inside, say, a shoebox or something like that? And guess what? I've got a box right behind my special curtain back here, okay? Ta-da! We got a box, okay? So inside this box, okay, how many? It's empty, okay? How many cubic whatever could go in there? So how many of these cubes could fit in there if we stacked them all in there and lined them up perfectly, okay? Well, we can measure this, okay? And we'll eventually, why would this be important? Okay, we've got a big box like this. Maybe we're gonna, move, and we're gonna get a whole bunch of boxes like this, and we're gonna fill each of these boxes. How many of these boxes would fit inside of the back of a semi or a moving truck, a moving van, okay? So we would need to know, how many boxes should I buy to fit in the moving van if I have to move, okay? So we'll set, whoa, big bang, okay? We'll set that aside, and we'll look at this, okay? So if I have one, and if this was, say, it's bigger than an inch, right? But if it was, I got a notification, somebody turned in an assignment. If this was 1 cubic inch, even though it's bigger than a cubic inch, and we took another cubic inch. Well, what's a cubic inch? Okay, a cubic inch would be taking a ruler, right, and looking at 1 inch, okay, and we draw that out, okay, if we drew that out on the board, we would have 1 inch, okay, by 1 inch by 1 inch by 1 inch. That's a 1 inch square. That's not a cube yet, okay? But if we made it into a cube, that's like a cubic inch, okay? So I've got these other shapes here, okay? And if I measure, and we'll be looking at these too, if I measure these shapes, okay, those are really close to an inch, so we could almost call that right there 1 cubic inch minus the little knob on it there that causes it to click into the other cubes, okay? So, but if we take these, okay, we got these cubic, we're going to call them cubic inches even though they're bigger than that. What are they? I'm curious. They are about 3 inch, okay? They're 3 inches, okay? So if I stuck one next to each other, oh, look at that, okay? And then I wanted to stick one on top and another one on top, okay? Suddenly, okay, I end up with a cubic square there, okay? How many cubes are there? There's 1, 2, 3, 4. There was 4 cubes when And separating them now with these magnetic shapes is a pain. It doesn't work very well. You got to reassemble them. Okay. So now, if I took those, how do we figure out how many could be in there? We can take one layer. Okay. And let's build another layer just like that. Okay. So stack that one. Okay. Stack that one. And stack that one. Okay. And we got two of these layers. So what if these were stuck together? I'm not going to do it quite yet, okay? But what if they were? How would I know how many there were, okay? Well, one way I can do that is by counting how many is in each layer. There was 1, 2, 3, I'm going to go a little slower. 1, 2, 3, 4. There's 4, okay? So there's 4 in this layer. 4 in this layer. Now that's a complicated looking cube, right? So how many cubes are in there? If I hold it at this angle, you can't tell. If I hold it at this angle, you still can't tell because you can't see the whole thing unless you can three-dimensionally examine it all around, and then you can go around and count. If I can turn it and manipulate it, then I could see. But if you just have your on your papers, okay, if I drew one like this, okay, you can't see all of the cubes, but I can figure out how many are going to be there, okay, by counting how many are in each layer. So if this is red, this is red, that's red, that's red, that's red, that's red. How many red cubes do I have? 1, 2, 3, 4. I've got 4 red cubes. I can't see the ones behind it, but I know that's one layer. There's a second layer. How many are going to be in the second layer? Okay. We'll call those the blue ones, okay? The wrong lid on the marker, so it was showing me a different color. Okay, so those are blue, but it only looks like 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Okay, because these two are the part of the same shape. Okay, so that would give me a wrong answer, but I gotta think of it. There's one layer and 2 layers. So when I look at that, okay, just like we did here, there was the first layer and then the second layer, okay? Each of those layers, I'll see if look at that, I did it. Okay, each of those layers had 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 plus 4 is 8, okay? That's just like this here, okay? And that helps you understand, that's what volume is. So my volume would be 8 cubic whatever it is, okay? And we're gonna just say, we'll pretend they were way bigger, and they were yards, okay? So you would say this is 8 cubic, okay, yards. If each of this length was 1 yard, okay, then this whole thing, okay, is 1 yard, then that whole thing is a square yard, right? That was area. But now we make it into a cube, okay? And now that is 1 cubic yard, okay? That's kind of fun. Now, if you took a cubic yard and you had to break it down into how many cubic feet is in a cubic yard, suddenly we know, okay, each yard has how many feet? 3 feet, okay? So suddenly we end up with more cubic feet inside of a cubic yard. That's kind of a fun problem, okay? So we're going to look at this information here, okay? And go on and look at a few of your problems in your book, okay? So if you're going through in your book, it shows you the first thing, it gives you the model of the cubes, kind of like I just showed you. Then it says, here's a model of a rectangular solid, but with cubes that each have a volume of 1 cubic centimeter. Find the volume of the rectangular solid. We can count the number of cubic centimeters used to build it. Okay, so if I look at that one, okay, it is has 3 and 3. Okay, so if I was going to build that one, okay, I'd have 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. We stick them together, okay? Okay. Oh, yeah, there's actually several different style blocks in there, and some of them fit together well and some don't, okay? Then I'll set that layer aside, and I'll build another layer a minute here, okay? 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Okay. And if I was to stick, okay, both those layers together, how many is that? That's 6 cubic centimeters. Here's another 6 cubic centimeters. If they go together to make a solid, okay, how many do I have? You're right, I have 12. 6 plus 6 is 12, okay? So I can do that layering thing, okay? You might now bring yourself, it says, down to number 1, the directions right above number 1. Say, count the cubes to find the volume of each rectangular solid. Notice the units used in each figure, okay? So the first one says 2 feet by 2 feet by 2 feet, okay? So it's got something like this, okay? So this is 1 foot, 2 foot, okay? 1 foot, 2 foot, okay? So the height, the width, okay? And then the depth, 1 foot, 2 foot, okay? Length times width times height, okay? So we'll get to that, okay? So how many would this be? This was easy to figure out because if we separated it, right, we had volume, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, in the first layer, 4 in the second layer, okay? So when we're staring at that, just like this, okay, we can know, oh, I see 4 cubes in the first layer, and there's how many layers? 1 layer, 2 layers, so there's 2 layers, and each layer has 4, so that's 8 cubic, okay, centimeters, okay? So now let's, that would be number 1, 8, actually they had label of feet, so we called it 8 cubic feet. Okay, number 2, it says 4 centimeters by 3 centimeters high, okay? So I've got some pre-assembled, this is number 1 there on your first page on page 699, sorry, it's number 2.